They take about twice as long as maybe they used to. But, just taking a look at day by day. I mean, got a nice little countdown to the season, getting closer to media days here in about a month or so. But in the meantime, in between time, amongst all of the other things we discuss over the 3 hours every day, we've inserted this over the last few months. And so, yes, alphabetically, we're now into Ohio State territory and taking a glance at their 2025 schedule as they look to defend their fresh, brand new, nice national championship they won as the victors of the first ever. What did we just have? A 12-team playoff? Yeah. I get so confused with all the things that we talk about. Where were we last year? Was that 4? Was that we at 60? Where were we?
Yeah, and 12. And so nice for a young upstart company like Ohio State.
Yeah,
too.
Good for them to have this measure of success. No, I mean obviously they've, they're Ohio State. Not much more needs to be said than that. But how about that? I was thinking, Michigan's title depends on what glasses you want to look through of how tainted it is, or your takeaway from that title or whatever. But in the record books, it will say Michigan Wolverines won the 2023 national championship. But how about that for Ohio State, for all the S they had to eat for like a year because Michigan finally broke through and won? They're like, oh yeah, enjoy your honeymoon of like a year because we're going to win it right back and we're going to be the ones to then brag about it. That's a rivalry for you, isn't it? That's the way rivalry should go. So the two blood rivals now having won back-to-back national titles, will it be one of them again, or will it be somebody else in this last year of the 12-team playoff? Well, the path for Ohio State starts off at home on August the 30th. As we know all too well now, an 11 a.m. kickoff, as has already been announced, for Big Noon, as they will play host to the Texas Longhorns right out of the gates. So about as sexy of a non-con matchup as you can get. Certainly one of the better matchups you could put together on paper heading into next season, and we will get that right out of the gates. Then a little bit of a step down there in week number 2 for the Buckeyes as they will welcome in Grambling State on September the 6th. Then the following week, closing out the non-conference, just like that. Nice, clean schedule. Non-con, conference play, postseason. Not some of this like week 13 you play, or not week 13, but you know what I mean. Like here's Centennial, week 11 for no reason really other than we just want to get that gimme win. But I like nice, clean schedule. The 3 non-con games all in a row, and then they take their first bye week. So it's like as perfect as you could put together, really, and sort of breaking it up. So Texas at home, Grambling State at home, Ohio at home. The Buckeyes will not leave until the other side of the bye week, which we'll get to, which opens up Big Ten play. But that's their starting 3 games for 2025.
Yeah, and that Texas, look, they're gonna beat Ohio and they're gonna beat Grambling. And to you, the Ohio State fans, enjoy that halftime show. I know that they're very proud of their band, and as they should be. It's one of the very best ones there is. But Dot in the I is about to look dorky as hell.
It'll look. I don't know about dorky. It won't look as funky as their compadres. Yeah,
they're
and I mean that in the best kind of way. Like,
it's about to. You're about that guy. Somebody's gonna go prancing out there like, oh, and they're like, I don't know if I should. I don't know if I should be doing this today.
Yeah, and I don't even know, like, is Grambling well known for that as much as some of the others are? I'm not even sure.
They've got a fantastic
team. I mean, I figured so, but I know that there are degrees, like anything else, of like who the best of the best are and all that kind of deal. But
Grambling, Southern, Florida A&M. The Florida A&M band got suspended for a few years because of hazing, but they were, they were. And look, I always had legitimate beef with the marching chiefs at FSU because the drum major when I was there had no idea what was going on in the game. He would, Winky would get sacked for like a 13-yard loss against Florida. He'd play the tomahawk chop. He'd like, hey, I don't know, just leave it out. Here they did a Star Wars themed thing like 5 times in a row. So like if I could go across town and see fam, like I've done it. It was great. Like they were a blast. So, but Grambling will have that. So just a warning, Ohio State, don't try too hard. Just bring your best, but don't try to outdo yourself.
World famed Grambling State University Tiger Marching Band. So I assumed, but I didn't want to assume incorrectly and just lump them in with all the other HBCUs. But that's their thing, right? HBCUs know how to party. The bands get down like no other, so that'll be a scene in Columbus. So that's their non-conference schedule. Then we get into the Big Ten schedule there on September 27th after getting their first bye week under their belts. Ohio State will then turn around and will be on the road for the first time as they go to Washington to take on those longtime Big Ten rivals, the Washington Huskies, right? But no, that's cool, and that's one of those matchups that otherwise might have been like somebody kind of but Washington's new and different location to go to, and I think both SEC and Big Ten are obviously loving life with the expansion that they got the last go around. I don't know how excited people were about some of the like Rutgers, I don't mean to always single them out, but being able to go to the West Coast and the West Coast being as diverse as it is, I think that's a cool road trip for Buckeyes fans, obviously, and that would have been a cool non-con game for many years. Now it's a conference game. Yeah, and look, there's a lot of excitement in Seattle this year about the Huskies and their new quarterback. Better be. Yeah, better, so look, they had the coaching change, and obviously, that means that like the waterfall of transfers happened. Not only that, like they really didn't lose that many transfers overall. They just had, built up this team that was full of seniors and draft eligible guys and the best team they've had in a decade. And they all left at the same time, so really it was more graduation in the draft that got them in the portal, Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk and they all left. That was a good run though. Yeah, it was a great run. Michael Penix is gone. The running backs are gone. All that stuff. So I actually think that should be a good one. That Illinois game on October 11th. That's going to be. That's going to be one of the biggest games in Champaign in a long time, considering what people think about what Brett Bielema's team could be this year. So that's going to be a really, really interesting one, and that's an upset alert for sure for them. Yeah, we'll get to that one in a second. You got Washington on the road, then Minnesota at home on Saturday, October the 4th, and then the trip to Illinois you're now talking about on Saturday, October the 11th. So they will start to hit the road a bit more. So at Washington, Minnesota at home, at Illinois, then at Wisconsin the following week. So back-to-back road games there, and then their second bye week before they get prepared for a 5-game stretch to close the season. So this really is, I think this might be the most black and white schedule of your non-con and you break, and you play half your schedule in the conference and then you break and you play the other half of your schedule in the conference and then you go to the postseason. Everybody else has got all sorts of combinations. This is as clear as you can possibly be. I feel like on any of the schedules we've touched, and we've done 3.5 conferences at this point. So that middle section there at Washington, Minnesota at home, at Illinois, at Wisconsin, and then your break, obviously. 3 road games in that stretch after being at home for the non-con. So they will be road tested. I don't know how tested they will be. They should be tested, but they will definitely be road weary, I would think, after 3 games in 4 weeks on the road. Yeah, for sure, especially since one of them's all the way out to Seattle and all that. That's going to be something. But if they're breaking in a ton of new players themselves. Now, they do have the best player in the whole country in Jeremiah Smith, so that can help the break-in a little bit easier. But yeah, this we'll see, especially coming off this bye. And again, they couldn't have written this up any better, how it is, especially considering who they get coming out of the bye. Yeah, and so then coming out of that second and final bye week, you get your 5-game stretch to close the season. So 3, 4, 5 is how they go in order of the breakup of the schedule. And that last 5 starts with a home game against Penn State on November the 1st, then a trip to Purdue on November the 8th, followed by back-to-back home games against UCLA and Rutgers on the 15th and 22nd before the big game against Michigan in Ann Arbor on Saturday, November the 29th. No Friday games. Surprise, surprise for the Buckeyes. No Thursday night game. No Sundays. Just all Saturdays, baby. And that is how it will close up the final 5. So you get Penn State and Michigan. And then who really knows with Purdue, UCLA, and Rutgers of what to expect. But there you go. There's Michigan's last stretch there. Yeah, I'm sure. Ohio State. Whoa. Yeah. Whoa. I'm sorry, Buckeyes. I'm sure that when they suggested to Fox that they move that Texas game, they're like, "Oh, you're willing to move days? How do you feel about Friday?" And they're like, "Shut your face." Yeah. Ohio State. Don't even. Peacock calls up. It's like, "Hey, I heard you guys or something." Like, no.
Like, look, stop it. That was a one-time thing. Here's the thing that jumps out at me about this schedule. Outside of the Michigan game, which obviously they have a game right before it, their two other toughest games, and no offense to Illinois in this, but they get Texas the first game of the season, so they have extra time to do game plan for that one.
Yep.
And then they have the bye before Penn State, which Penn State also has the bye. So it's not like an advantage, but they both get, like, in those two mammoth top 5 matchups that they're going to have, both teams have extra time to prepare than they would have, just coming off a game and then another game, which I think is super interesting, particularly for Ohio State, who has 2 of these games. Penn State actually has a bye before they play Oregon. Oregon doesn't have a bye before they play Penn State. As a matter of fact, they play Oregon State right before it. So those are all things I just kind of noticed. But for the Big Ten, certainly lined it up. They wanted to make sure that what could be, like Ohio State and Michigan's always going to be the biggest number they probably have because of the tradition.
Oh, yeah.
But their other big in-conference game is going to be laid out perfectly with they both kind of the same, roll through the schedule and the same bye week beforehand. And there'll be some hype rolling into that one.
Yeah, there will. So they got Penn State on the schedule. They got Michigan, of course, on the schedule. As far as the teams, Texas, obviously. As far as the teams, they will not play out of the Big Ten because conferences are massive and you don't play half your league anymore. Mm-hmm. Nebraska, Iowa, USC, the biggest one, Oregon, obviously. Indiana, Northwestern, Maryland, and Michigan State, all teams that are not on the regular season schedules. That sounds crazy when you really start. I know we got the warnings about that when the conference is expanded, but dude, I just listed 8 teams are not going to play that are in their own league.
Yeah.
That's just kind of crazy. So would have liked to have seen Oregon again. Obviously, just give us the biggest games possible. Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll see each other in the playoff. Who knows with Indiana and the kind of magic that they return from last year. But, they'll miss some pretty good teams on paper, but they got definitely a manageable schedule with a couple of big question marks on there. Certainly the bookend games, Texas to start, and then Michigan on the road to close it out. So there you go. You're defending national champions. There's the Ohio State schedule, and we move on. And I would guess that Penn State's next?
Oregon.
Damn it. Yes, of course. How could I forget? Oregon Ducks. So we will get to Oregon. You already know they don't play